Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Walton-Spiel, hanging out with co-host, producer extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, this is Supergirl, Superwoman, the queen of project management. Katie Schulz is in the house from Slalom Consulting. For a dumb sales guy like me, she's going to lead us into the world of the evolution of program and project management, something we think just poof happens when we close the curtain and close that sale. But hey, you can find us online, itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials and subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Don't forget meetup.com/IT in the D. We're going to be one more time at Nancy Whiskey down in Detroit. Third Thursday, always at 5:00. No speaker, no covers. Hope to see you at a future event. Katie, how they treating you? You doing good?
Doing well, thanks. Yes. Managing the transition of the kids back to college and getting through it all every day.
Today was D-Day for a lot of my single and or childless friends who have to put up with all of our pictures, back to school photos. So it was definitely a, I didn't get any, actually got Randy didn't scoff too much. I think August is the only one that scoffs. He does not. Today is not his favorite day in the world.
All the pictures of the little goblins dressed up in their finery going back to
their fresh kicks. Yeah. So candidly, Katie, I work with Katie, and my entire life I've been a sales guy, and it's been the ever living joke that once I sell something, I fold up the PO and put it in a little magic box, and then poof, voila, the work gets done, and then the client either says yay or the client says you guys messed up. And then I go back and we work on things. But Katie, you are the brains behind the operation. You make sure our little POs and our SOWs and all the stuff we sell to those clients get implemented and delivered properly. So did I sum up your existence? I don't want to say you're magicians, but you kind of, in my world, you are.
Absolutely. Yep. It definitely hits on the fact that it's as much art as it is science, it's as much method as it is experience, and sniffing out the problems before they become real challenges for you. And I like to think of it as when you fold up that PO and put it in the box, I want you to do more than just hope that the client's going to come back in the end and say everything went great. I want you to move up the spectrum. You can get to a think stage with just a few of the fundamentals. And then our goal is always to make sure when you fold that PO up and you look at the team, you know it's going to get done because you have project managers who are planning the work, they're measuring the progress, they know what to look for, they're looking around the corners for the goblins that are going to jump out at you, and aware of them and know what to do before they get there.
So we always grew up with like, oh, I got my PMP cert, and we were like, oh, wow, that's great. And quite candidly, I knew it was project management, right? And it kind of stopped there. And I know during this entire time, like dev, I've always been around dev. So dev I knew the involvement from waterfall to agile, and it seems like agile's been in lieu for about the last 10 years, Randy. And then, but there's been an evolution for project management, and I'm just curious where, let us into where it started and kind of where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say project management started, and this is whether it's agile, whether it's waterfall, some of these fundamentals apply in all cases. How you get it done is sort of the methodology and where agile comes into play. But in the olden days, I will say, which isn't too far back for me to remember, but your project managers were reporters. They were tracking things and reporting it, telling you what happened last week. What did we get done? What didn't we get done? What are we going to do? But it was all reporting the news, is what I like to say it. And now where we are evolving is your project managers need to be value add in leading the delivery. They need to bring all of that, not just the certifications of PMPs, but the experience they have to know what could go wrong and how do I make sure it either doesn't go wrong or I know what to do as soon as it does go wrong to get it back on track.
So expand on that real quick. Give me like an example or something, like when you're saying like they're, instead of just delivering or reporting, how are they foreseeing, I guess, is this like are they being trained different, or is it a new skill set that they're learning what in getting their being a project manager? I guess talk to me about that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the easiest thing to talk about is when you talk about risks. An old time project manager would track the risk, write it down, put it on the spreadsheet, bring it up once a week and say, we have this risk. We're monitoring it. We're keeping our eye out. The new project manager actually comes to the table, brings the group of people together and says, how do we identify all the risks? What could go wrong? I've done this project 6 times before. And so here are all the questions I'm going to ask. What could go wrong? The environment might not be ready. The developers might not have the right skill set to do this work. The client that you're working with might have taken on more than they can chew because they all have day jobs and they take this project on as a side hustle. And their bosses think they can do it all, but they can't. So asking all those questions based on experience. And that's where I say it's as much art as science. The PMP and all of your project management training is going to tell you how to do it. But you have to, the value added project manager brings to it all the scars, all the experience and wisdom, which we all know comes only from learning through mistakes. So what are all the things that have gone wrong before and what could go wrong here? And then what do we do about that?
So how do they differentiate themselves if you just say project manager on your title? Like that's it seems like that's vague now, because if it was back before when you were just like, again, reporting, and now you're actually, I don't want to say it's a more valuable player in the grand scheme of things, but it feels that way the way you're explaining it. Like how do you differentiate yourself in I guess not just in title, but in scope of what you claim the work you do?
Absolutely. A lot of it is in what level of responsibility or accountability do you take for the project? If I am a project manager who is tracking and reporting and sort of monitoring, controlling, I'm not feeling the ownership to get this project over the finish line successfully, on time, on budget, delivering the value that it's supposed to deliver. I am just telling you where we're at and if we're getting there or if we're not, and letting somebody else be on the hook for rallying the troops, getting more people for the project, increasing skill levels. But the way we differentiate it, and I often ask the questions is, are you looking for someone who's a project coordinator, project tracker, or are you truly looking for a delivery lead? Someone who's going to take accountability for leading this team to the finish line. And the finish line defined as whatever success means for that project, which isn't just getting it done, right?
It's very similar to sales. Like, what kind of sales? Are they an account manager? Are they a farmer? Are they a hunter? Are they no? So I get it. It's starting to make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think there's an issue of overloading the title too much? Like I have a friend whose title is actually delivery lead.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think asking the questions of what are you expecting of that delivery lead? And we talk about it all the time. I mean, you can get a project manager at a relatively low cost and they add value in their own way, but it's playing a very different role than someone who's going to lead delivery and really be responsible for saying, I know this project is going to get over the hump and get there successfully.
So who defines the criteria? Is it the delivery lead of what, obviously success is a finished project, but the milestones, I guess, where is that being written, developed? Is it agile where it's being changed on the fly depending on things that they uncover? I guess walk me through how that gets to the final stage of being ready.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of it is defining done. What does done mean? And it's different for every project and it's different for every client. What does it mean? Does done mean you have a working piece of software? Does done mean you're generating 10 new leads a week in your customer relationship management software that you've just implemented, right? Or does done mean you're generating new revenue for a product that you built? If you define done as just the working software, but you aren't getting any value out of that, in many cases, that isn't what I would consider done. Done and success needs to be, why are we doing it? It's not the output, it's the outcome, which is another kind of paradigm that we're talking a lot about with our clients anyway, is we don't want to focus on the outputs. You need those. Those are the table stakes. But why are you creating those outputs? What do you intend to do with them? And how will you know they are generating value for your organization? So what that means is you have to put more in your planning and your milestones to actually measure the value along the way and make sure you have a way to demonstrate that you are meeting that success criteria. So we start every project by just having a very open and honest dialogue that sometimes it's as much as, let's sit down and write the news release for this project, the press release that we want to have out there. Let's write it right now. What do we want it to say? How did this transform your organization? How did this new product get out to the market and completely change the way customers experience your website? Whatever that may be, let's write that press release and then make sure the project manager now in that delivery lead role is delivering to that. It's making that press release come true versus just making sure we build 10 widgets within 100 hours time.
So I look at our day-to-day life and we're doing everything. We're doing business strategy. We're doing actual consultancy. We're doing, maybe a website redesign. Maybe we're doing, an analytics or a dashboarding project. Maybe we're doing infrastructure. And it's like, how many each one is completely unique, right? Hate to each a pretty little snowflake. But no, like
Yeah.
there's not. I can't imagine anything like that could ever be replicated. It's basically we're building this. It's a different looking house every time we put this thing together. Am I correct in that or wrong?
Yeah, I know. I think you're spot on, because even if you had two projects that were designed to say implement a Salesforce marketing cloud, the why you're doing it is so important. And that influences how you're going to plan and manage the work to get it done. If you are implementing marketing cloud to get mailers out the door in half the time it takes today, that's the outcome you're trying to achieve. That's how you prioritize which features are most important. That's how you make sure those features get done first. That's how you think about what processes have to change. Everything that you do is geared at that outcome. Somebody else might be implementing Marketing Cloud because they want to improve engagement with their customers by 25%. Okay, now I need different features in the cloud. I need to be able to interact with the software differently, and I need to measure engagement versus just getting mailers out the door. And you just think about each project. So you're exactly right that they are all snowflakes. And that's why your experienced delivery leaders, advanced project managers are really thinking about, how do I take each one of these snowflakes and bring the experience I have, as well as the methods that we go through to ask the right questions, define success, define done, understand all the things that could possibly go wrong in that type of project, and plan for that. Don't just close your eyes and hope that nothing goes wrong between now and then. And as long as nothing goes wrong, you'll be done in June. It'll be, happy path.
So how do sales help program and delivery people? I'm assuming you guys behind closed doors are swearing at us every minute of the day. Maybe I'm wrong. But how can we help?
Never.
How do we help?
I think you help by really getting at the why, getting at the not what do you want to do and what are you trying to sell or what is the client trying to buy, but why? What is it that they're planning to do with it? And what does that press release look like? What do they want to tell everybody they accomplished? Because then we plan for that. The other thing that I think we work with our sales teams quite a bit is when we are trying to manage scope to the budget a client may have, the first thing every client says is, well, we'll do that part. We can do that. we know how to manage projects, or we know how to do change management, helping us to articulate to them the risks that presents and making sure that we're one team in this. It's not just about, from at least a delivery perspective, it's not just about getting the tasks done that were assigned to you or your team. We're all trying to achieve an outcome. And what's the best way to do that?
You know what's crazy, Katie? I've been in sales for 25 years, corporate sales. And I finally learned what are you trying to accomplish and why are you doing this? It's amazing to me how many grown adult salespeople that I've met that still run at me with feature benefit. And if they, you got a $10 million order, you would take it in a second and not think twice of asking, well, what are you trying to do? Right. It absolutely shocks me. So I can see how the frustration would be on delivery when here we sit and just take an order because that's what we do. And on your end, we just shoveled a pile of manure over the fence and said, make this look like diamonds tomorrow. So I mean, I'm trying. One of my goals in life is trying to retrain as many salespeople as humanly possible, because I think it's the professions, like there's a lot of good people and there's a whole lot of bad people in like pretty good, in good companies. So that's why I'm kind of asking how do we make it easier, better for you guys?
I think part of it is that we have to get beyond what they ask for to how do we truly understand what they need. Right. And those can sometimes be two very different things, because the person buying the services or the product, they think they know that's what they want. But until you get them to articulate that why, you don't get to what they really need. And then the answer to what they really need might be slightly different than what they thought they wanted to buy. And helping us solution for what they need and what the why gives us a lot more creativity and flexibility to bring alternative solutions, often that get to value faster, and can even cost less. I mean, they may ask for the $10 million thing,
right,
which a salesperson wants to sign it and run to the bank, right? But we can look at it and go, we can actually get to their outcome for $6 million and have a partner for life that is looking to us as always being in their best interest and helping them achieve the outcomes they are looking for.
I'll never forget the story. Raul's our Superman of our office, our leader, told the story of it was our call center sucks. Can you fix it? And he could have easily taken that $10 million order. Figured he would sit in the call center for 2 days, figured out it had nothing to do with the call volume or the call people. It was the contracting service that would send to people's houses was garbage. And they fixed that and it cost nothing. But then guess what? You get a customer for life at that point. His sales manager probably was angry with him because he might have missed his number that quarter. But I mean, you had a customer for the next 10 years when you do something like that. So that's what I'm kind of asking. Well, what the heck are you trying to accomplish? Is kind of a key driver. So talk to me about, you used the hope, think, no thing. I think most like PMs, like they think it's gonna, they hope it's gonna work. They think it's gonna work. I don't know how many walk into it going, they absolutely 100% unequivocally know it's gonna work. I guess talk to me through, that evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we often see where people will come to us and say, 80% of our projects never get done or get done at, way over budget or way late. They never get done on time. And we start to look at it and say, well, along the journey of that project, how do you know that you are on track? What evidence do you bring to each discussion that says, well, last week we got this much done, so that means for the next 3 months, this is what we can actually predict is going to happen. And we're going to know it in a much more finite way. And what processes are you putting in place to track the progress, monitor it, and use what's happened to date to predict the future? I've met with 1,000 teams that say, last week we only got 10 widgets built, but I hope next week we'll get 20. And I look at them and say, well, why is next week going to be different? You have no reason to believe that you can get to 20. You can then talk to a project manager who comes in and says, we only got 10 done last week. We've added 3 people to the team, and we did a round of knowledge sharing sessions to learn from what went wrong and what made the first 10 difficult. And therefore, I think we're going to get 14 next week and 18 the following week. And I can say, okay, that's a sound plan. You actually took action. You think it's going to work. So then you go into week 2 and you get your 14 and you say, now I know we're on track. We have, we took action. It gave us the result we expected. So now I'm in that no stage. But if I just say this was a bad week and I hope next week will be better, you're going to stay in that hope world and you're not likely to get success the way you want. So it's a lot of getting from hope to no is using what has already happened to predict what's going to happen next, or changing the future by taking some real discrete actions.
So failing fast and learning from it and changing on the fly. Yeah. So, it sounds like agile, it's in a different
100%.
methodology,
Yep.
but yeah. One of the things it hasn't been newer to me because I've always done it inherently, but it's always been storytelling. And we keep bringing it up more and more. I was asked to teach a class actually on storytelling. And I'm not going to lie, I had a hard time coming up with curriculum for it because I'm going, okay, the hero's journey. And I'm kind of walking through that. But I was trying to translate it into business. And it's kind of, I was looking at stories of like, hey, if we do this thing, it'll cost $10, but you'll make $50. 5x return. Like, so I was trying to articulate it, but I'd love to hear your take on, in the program manager role, like what you have to do in terms of storytelling and to who.
Absolutely. We see this a lot in terms of many clients will come to us and say, we're doing all the right things and we are implementing projects, but our regulators don't agree with the value we're adding or the impact it's having on our O&M expense or our reliability, for example, maybe for a utility, or our, internal stakeholders, our leaders don't understand why things take so long to get done. And we often then come in and bring that art of telling the story along the way of why did you choose the projects you did? Why did you invest in them? Why did you believe they would add the value? How are you measuring that? And what are you learning each step of the way that increases your confidence in that hope, think, know? And then how can you demonstrate the value that each project delivers back?
So in terms of the story, though, is it really just defining value, or I guess what part of the whole storytelling thing? Like, I was trying to always bring it back to, actually, what I used was a scene from Caddyshack. You might not know it, but it's a totally like an 80s, golf.
I know
easy.
it.
And there was a story where Bill Murray was telling the Dalai Lama story. And, he's got the pitchfork to the guy's neck and he's doing the whole gunga la gunga thing. And the guy's looking at him like, are you out of your mind? Well, I said, is this a good story or a bad story? And everyone was like, horrible story. And I said, actually, it was a fantastic story. He was very descriptive, flowing robes, grace, big hit of the Lama, 10,000-foot glacier. Like he was like, you were there, but the guy didn't want to hear it. That he was holding the pitchfork to. So I was like, you need to know where your audience is. You could tell the greatest story ever told, but if your audience is disinterested, like it means nothing. So I guess, obviously our clients are interested in our success, but like, how do you get them drawn in so the story that you're telling is actually resonates?
Yeah. And this is something we've actually been just starting to talk about within our team a little bit around, at Slalom, we talk about how do you get to know your customers really well? How, when you're solutioning, are you understanding what they value the most? So that's really in the sales process. That's your your expertise, right? Of how do I know what they value? And therefore, I'm telling the story of what I am selling to them in the terms that matter to them, in what I know they value. Do they value speed? Do they value perfection? Do they value the experience that you've had and been there, done that? Or do they value we're going to make this unique to you? Knowing all those things, really, we talk a lot about how that helps in the sales process. What I am starting to learn is, let's not throw away all that analysis we do about our buyers upon the sale being complete when we fold up the PO and put it in the box. Let's keep those out fresh and say, if I know that person valued execution excellence as one of the key things, then that's the story I ought to tell all throughout delivery, so that I can make sure I'm playing to what they value and I am demonstrating what's important to them along the journey of delivery. And that's the story I want to tell. If the person bought because of our level of repeatability and perfection on delivery, then I need to be able to demonstrate along the way and sprinkle into every status update that I give how we reuse something from a prior project to get us there faster, because we have all of this repeatable collateral that we can use. If somebody else valued a unique solution that was tailored to them and their people were coming on the journey of delivery and owning it with us, if that was their value at the beginning, that's what I need to repeat throughout in what I tell the story to. So you have to understand, like you said, who's your audience? What do they want to hear about? And then how do I make sure the results we're delivering are told to them in the way they value it?
Yeah, but I mean, that's all needs to get uncovered in the beginning. So it's like, again, asking those good questions. What's important to you? But then that's also the delivery team helping us define that. Because if we, again, sometimes we get a little overzealous and just want to get that thing signed, push it through. Just asking those good questions.
100%.
So I always hear the saying, and this is the first time in my life I've heard it, but nothing sells like good delivery. Do you fashion yourselves as salespeople? Because I know it's a little bit low on the totem pole for the techs, but what's your take on that line?
It's interesting because we do, most of us in delivery cringe when people say, you need to help us sell and you need to be part of sales. And we don't like to fashion ourselves as salespeople. We don't feel good at it. And what I have talked to a lot of my fellow delivery people, and as we're growing our delivery experts in the field, is talking about when you turn sales into solving business problems, then it's fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a great salesperson. You have to be able to understand the problems that our clients have and the solutions you can bring to the table and how you can deliver them. And we also talk a lot about that most of our repeat clients are going to be repeat clients, not because of what we did, but because of how it felt to work with us along the way. How did we deliver?
Isn't that an old, it doesn't matter. You won't remember what I said. You'll just remember how I made you feel. Is that Maya Angelou, I believe, if I'm not mistaken?
Exactly.
One of my favorite quotes. Yeah.
For sure. And I've even told stories along the way that some of the projects that run into the bumpiest road at some point in delivery, unexpected things happen. It isn't going well. The way we respond as delivery people to recognizing the challenges, yep, been there, stay calm. We understand how to get through this challenge and we're going to do it with you, not to you, for you, or against you. As happens a lot of times, if you stay out of we're just going to go back to the contract and try to everybody cover your butts and figure out whose fault this actually is. If you instead just get in the trenches and work your way through it, those bumpy projects also end up being the clients for life because they appreciate the way we just roll up our sleeves, get in the trenches, and figure it out together.
I wrote
Never
a
does a project go smoothly.
No, I can't imagine one. You'll get one, but I think you'll always think something's wrong. I wrote a blog way before the podcast about everybody's in sales. Yes, IT guy or whatever I phrased it. But I always said, I go, it
Mhm.
didn't matter. Selling's one thing, but like the technicians have to sell the delivery leaders. They have to sell your boss. You have to sell the people under that are working on the project with you to move to work harder, faster. You know what I mean? I think we're all in, it just sales brings on such a negative connotation always. So I've been fighting my whole career about changing that. But hey, Katie, this has been an absolute masterclass on delivery. I got so much more to learn from you. I need to stop you more in the hallway at work. I mean, unless you don't want me to.
No, absolutely. As you can see, I am a geek for it and love to talk about it. So
No, it's just,
appreciate the time.
you told me you were nervous. You did fantastic. No, this is.
Oh, well, thanks.
I appreciate your time. That's Katie Schulz, Slalom Consulting. I'm going to put her LinkedIn profile if you want to reach out to her in the show notes. But this is going to wrap things up for the IT and the D show. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.